Still, Israel's defense minister says no option is off the table. That's a quick look at the news. And I guess while we're on that topic, we ought to go right into Hillary Clinton, Willie.
Yeah.
Because she was on Meet the Press yesterday and talked about this very issue.
She did. She was on Meet the Press for the full hour, sitting down with David Gregory. She really was tough talking about Iran. She said their pursuit of nuclear weapons is futile. Here's Hillary Clinton yesterday on Meet the Press.
We believe, as a matter of policy, it is unacceptable for Iran to have nuclear weapons. What we want to do is to send a message to whoever is making these decisions that if you're pursuing nuclear weapons for the purpose of intimidating, of projecting your power, we're not going to let that happen.
All right, tough talk on Iran from Hillary Clinton. A full hour with her on Meet the Press yesterday. Overall, I thought she did really well. It was kind of great to see her out there again. She had that injury recently. Pat Buchanan, in terms of the words that she's using pertaining to Iran, how do you think she's doing?
I think she's moved to the position of the Bush doctrine, frankly. She is saying that we will not let this Iranian regime get the world's worst weapons, which are nuclear weapons, so she's moved to the Bush doctrine. However, I think she's gone a bridge too far when she says we're not going to let the Iranians enrich uranium or do that process on their own soil. They've signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and they've got a right to do that under that treaty. Israel has not signed it. Pakistan has not signed it. India has not signed it. Secondly, I think Hillary really had to walk back the disastrous diatribe of Joe Biden about Russia being a withering economy and it's failing and fading and losing its influence and all these things, which I think was a diplomatic disaster. She walked that back by saying that she looks upon Russia as a great power, but I think a lot of damage has been done by the vice president.
Well, we'll talk a little later in the show about her position as Secretary of State and all the other personalities in there, including Joe Biden, and how that sort of, I mean, is it a team of rivals, or are they able to define themselves in their specific areas of interest? She also talked about, this was kind of an interesting moment on Meet the Press, Willie.
Yeah, be interested to hear Carl's take on this, as he wrote the book on Hillary Clinton. But David Gregory pushed Hillary and asked the Secretary of State what it was like now that she's had 6 months to sort of step away and think about it, working under the man she fought so hard against for 2 years, at times a very nasty campaign.
Yeah, sure.
Here's what she said.
Here was a recent headline that got a lot of attention, not surprisingly, in the Los Angeles Times. Clinton seems overshadowed by her boss, some analysts say. You responded with a pretty sharp retort saying, I broke my elbow, not my larynx.
That's right.
But seriously, has at times this been a struggle?
Not at all. I mean, maybe because I understand the functioning of the United States government, the president is the president. The election is over. The president has to lead our country both internationally and domestically. I saw this when my husband was president. At the end of the day, it is the president who has to set and articulate policy.
Carl, you've studied Hillary Clinton so very closely. Tell us what you think's going on in her mind and in her heart.
I think she's remarkably comfortable, and that's what people around her who know her best tell me. This turns out to be a really deft pick by Obama and a deft decision by Hillary and Bill Clinton to accept this position. She's a terrific advocate for the United States. She's comfortable. You know, Hillary Clinton is not really a conceptual thinker, but she's much more an executor. And all this in the press about who's making policy and who's not. Look, the President of the United States makes foreign policy. She executes it. She helps make it. She's in the NSC meetings. But this is really working out. You know, she has great connections with women around the world. They respond to her. Government leaders respond to her. You know, she got up the other day and said the United States is back. And there's something demonstrable about the response that she's getting.
Well, she's certainly out.
This is really something to watch. And quite honestly, I think we ought to take her at her word about what her real interest is right now, which is focusing on being the Secretary of State of the United States.
And she's logged the miles for it, something like 100,000. Jonathan Capehart?
Yeah, I think Carl is right. I mean, gosh, I keep agreeing with Carl, but I'm glad he said.
So is Patrick.
I'm glad Carl said what he said. I'm glad he said what he said. Let's take her at her word that she's got her job. She's clearly she's having fun doing it. There are plenty of problems for her to focus on. And I thought her answer to David's question about the about sort of the team of rivals aspect, where she said, she named all the special envoys that are out there, and she said, you know, you can't do it all, and it's terrific to have all these people in all these places handling all these situations so that the United States, again, can be back in the leadership role that it somewhat negated in a lot of areas over 8 years.
Well, coming up, talking to my dad, I want to ask him about the challenge of the personal dynamics of being in a job like that, especially when there are a lot of other high-profile players that you could be, in essence, competing with. I think to an extent it's been a made-up story, but on the inside, there are those issues that you always have to contend with in terms of competition. But let's, before we get to the break, I want to read, Mark Halperin, something from Charles Krauthammer over the weekend, and this pertains to health care. Hillary Clinton also talked about health care on Meet the Press, something she was intrinsically involved with during her husband's presidency, a failed effort, albeit, but she does know a thing or two about it. This is how Krauthammer describes Obamacare. It's all about him. Health care is his signature reform, and he knows that if he produces nothing, he forfeits the mystique that both propelled him to the presidency and has sustained him through a difficult first 6 months, which is why Obama's red lines are constantly shifting. Universal coverage? Maybe not. No middle-class tax hit? Well, perhaps, but only if they don't primarily bear the burden, because it's about him. Obama is quite prepared to sign anything as long as it is titled health care reform. Would you agree with that?
We all want an America defined by deep and meaningful equality, from civil rights to labor rights, from women's rights to gay rights, from ending discrimination. There are no acceptable limits, and there are no acceptable prejudices in the 21st century in our country.
We have a common task and a common challenge.
Why can't we see that we are all in this together?
18 million of you from all walks of life. Women and men, young and old, Latino and Asian, African American and Caucasian, rich, poor and middle class, gay and straight, you have stood with me. And I will continue to stand strong with you every time, every place, and every way that I can. The dreams we share are worth fighting for.